The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest, but I kept my face stone cold as I set down my coffee mug on our kitchen counter. Kelly stood there in her silk pajamas, arms crossed, that defiant look in her green eyes that I've been seeing more often lately. I'm pregnant, Marty. And it's Sean's baby. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I leaned back against the granite countertop we'd installed last spring and studied my wife, of 12 years. Kelly O'Sullivan, 35. HR executive at Mercy General Hospital. Beautiful in that polished way that came from expensive salons and yoga classes I paid for with my construction business. Impossible, I said, taking another sip of coffee. He had a vasectomy 5 years ago. The color drained from Kelly's face faster than water down a storm drain. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried to recover with a nervous laugh. What are you talking about? Sean never told me that. Why would my brother discuss his medical procedures with my wife? I kept my voice level, but inside, alarm bells were clanging. Sean had confided in me during one of our fishing trips, made me promise not to tell anyone, especially not Kelly. Said it was embarrassing, that he didn't want the family knowing he'd given up on having kids after his divorce. Kelly's hands trembled slightly as she poured herself orange juice. Maybe he lied to you. Maybe he was embarrassed about something else. I studied her profile as she avoided my gaze. 12 years of marriage teaches you things. The way she bit her lower lip when she was spinning a story, how her voice got higher when she was cornered, the telltale flush that crept up her neck when she was caught in a lie. Kelly, honey, I said, using the tone I reserved for particularly stupid subcontractors. When exactly did this alleged encounter with my brother happen? She whirled around, orange juice sloshing. Don't use that condescending tone with me, Martin O'Sullivan. It happened 3 weeks ago when you were in Boston on that hotel project. Sean came over to fix the garbage disposal, and one thing led to another. Now I did laugh, a harsh bark that echoed off our kitchen tiles. Sean was in Vermont 3 weeks ago, visiting his buddy Jake from the Marines. I have the photos he posted on Facebook. Want to see them? The glass slipped from Kelly's hands and shattered on the floor, orange juice spreading across the white tiles like a sunset. She stared at the mess, then at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before in her eyes. Pure panic. You're lying, she whispered. Am I? I pulled out my phone and scrolled to Sean's Facebook page. There he was, grinning next to a campfire with 3 other veterans, timestamp showing exactly 3 weeks ago. Want me to call Jake? He runs that outdoor adventure company. Pretty sure he'd remember if Sean left early for a romantic rendezvous with his sister-in-law. Kelly's breathing became shallow. She pressed her back against the refrigerator, surrounded by the broken glass and spreading juice. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then who... she started, then caught herself. That's what I'd like to know. I set my phone on the counter and crossed my arms. Because someone got you pregnant, and it sure as hell wasn't my sterile brother. The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Outside, I could hear Mrs. Petty, next door, watering her garden, probably straining to catch every word through our thin walls. The old busybody had made gossip her full-time job since retiring from the post office. Kelly's phone buzzed on the counter. A text message. Without thinking, I glanced at the screen and saw a name that made my blood run cold. Derek. Derek Hanley. Kelly's sister Lauren's husband, the smooth-talking lawyer with his BMW and his golf club membership and his wandering eyes that I'd caught lingering on Kelly during family barbecues. Expecting a call from your lawyer? I asked casually. Kelly lunged for the phone, but I was faster. Construction work keeps you quick on your feet. I held it above my head, and she was too short to reach it, even when she jumped. Give me my phone, Marty. Can't wait to see you tonight. Lauren's working late again, I read aloud. Same place as usual. I looked down at my wife, who had gone completely white. Interesting message from your brother-in-law. She stopped jumping and backed away from me. It's not what you think. Really? Because what I think is that you're screwing your sister's husband and trying to pin the pregnancy on my brother. What I think is that you're a lying, cheating piece of work who's been playing games with 2 families. Kelly's mask finally slipped completely. The sweet, professional demeanor she wore like armor cracked, revealing something ugly underneath. So what if I am? She snarled. What are you going to do about it? You think anyone will believe you? I'm the respected HR executive. You're just a blue-collar nobody who smells like sawdust and sweat. That stung, but I've been called worse by better people. We'll see about that. I pocketed her phone and stepped carefully around the broken glass. Clean up this mess. And Kelly, pack a bag. You're going to need somewhere to stay while we sort this out. You can't throw me out of my own house. Actually, I can. My name's on the deed. My business paid the down payment. My credit got us the mortgage. I paused at the kitchen doorway and looked back at her. But don't worry. I'm sure Derek has room for you. Just hope Lauren doesn't mind sharing. I left her standing there in the wreckage and headed for my truck. I had some calls to make, starting with my brother Sean. Then maybe a visit to Derek's law office. It was time to start evening the score. The autumn air was crisp as I climbed into my F-150, and I could see Mrs. Petty pretending to tend her roses while obviously eavesdropping. I gave her a friendly wave. By noon, half the neighborhood would know something was up at the O'Sullivan house. Good. Let them talk. Before I was done, this whole town would know exactly what kind of woman Kelly really was. Sean answered on the second ring, his voice thick with sleep. Marty? It's 7 a.m. on a Saturday. Someone better be dead or dying. Close enough. Kelly just told me she's pregnant with your baby. Silence. Then a laugh that sounded like it came from the bottom of a well. Jesus Christ, Marty. What did you tell her? That you shoot blanks. She didn't take it well. I pulled into the parking lot of Pete's Diner, our usual weekend breakfast spot. We need to talk. Meet me at Pete's in 20 minutes. I'll be there in 15. Pete's Diner occupied a converted railroad car on the edge of downtown, all chrome and red vinyl that hadn't been updated since the Eisenhower administration. Pete Kowalski, the owner, was a former Marine who'd served with Sean in Afghanistan. He poured coffee like it was a religious ceremony, and minded his own business unless you needed him not to. Sean arrived looking like he'd been dragged through a hedge backward, his dark hair sticking up at odd angles and his flannel shirt buttoned wrong. At 36, he was 2 years younger than me, but looked older, courtesy of 3 tours overseas and a divorce that had cleaned him out financially and emotionally. Start from the beginning, he said, sliding into the booth across from me. I told him everything, while Pete refilled our coffee cups and pretended not to listen. Sean's face grew darker with each detail, especially when I mentioned Derek's text message. That slick son of a bitch, Sean muttered. I never liked him. Always had that smarmy politician smile, you know, like he was selling you something even when he was just saying hello. The question is, what do we do about it? Sean leaned back in the booth, studying me with eyes that had seen too much. What do you want to do about it? I want them exposed, both of them. I want Lauren to know what her husband's been doing. I want Kelly's reputation in ruins. I want Derek's law practice to suffer. I took a sip of coffee and felt it burn all the way down. I want revenge, Sean. Cold, calculated, public revenge. That's my brother. Sean grinned. And, for the first time since Kelly's bombshell, I felt like I could breathe again. What do you need from me? Play along. If Kelly contacts you, act like you're willing to go along with her story. String her along while I gather evidence. Evidence of what? The affair? I need proof that Derek's the father. Photos, recordings, something that will hold up in divorce court and destroy both their reputations. Sean nodded slowly. You know this is going to get ugly, right? Kelly's not going to go quietly, and Derek's a lawyer. He'll fight dirty. Let him try. I've been building things with my hands since I was 16. I know how to tear them down, too. We spent the next hour planning our strategy. Sean would play the confused, reluctant accomplice if Kelly contacted him. I would start surveillance on both Kelly and Derek, document their affair, and prepare for the nuclear option. Public exposure at the worst possible moment. When? Sean asked as we prepared to leave. Thanksgiving. Lauren always hosts the big family dinner. Derek will be there, playing the perfect husband. Kelly will probably show up, trying to maintain appearances, and I'll drop the bomb in front of everyone. That's 6 weeks away. Good. Gives me time to build an airtight case. I threw a 20 on the table and stood up. By the time I'm done, they'll both wish they'd never been born. Sean whistled low. Remind me never to cross you. Too late for that advice where Kelly's concerned. I spent the rest of the day at my office, a converted warehouse on the industrial side of town, where O'Sullivan Construction had been operating for 8 years. Saturday was usually my catch-up day. reviewing bids, and scheduling jobs for the following week. But today, I had other priorities. First, I called my lawyer, Jim Morrison. No relation to the rock star, as he constantly reminded people. Jim had handled the legal work when I incorporated the business, and would handle my divorce when the time came. Marty? What's going on? I need to know my options. Kelly's been cheating, and I want a divorce. But I want to do this smart, not emotional. Bring me everything you have. Bank statements, credit card bills, phone records if you can get them legally. Massachusetts is a no-fault state, but adultery can still affect property division and alimony. What about recording conversations? One-party consent state. If you're part of the conversation, you can record it legally, but be careful about privacy laws if you're recording other people. Next, I drove to Best Buy and purchased a small digital recorder, a GPS tracker that could be attached to a car, and a basic surveillance camera. Nothing fancy, nothing that would get me arrested, but enough to document what I suspected was going on. By evening, I had a plan. Kelly had texted me twice, asking when I was coming home. I ignored both messages. Instead, I parked across the street from Derek's law office and waited. At 8:30, Kelly's silver Honda pulled into the parking lot. She sat in the car for 5 minutes, checking her makeup in the mirror before walking to the building's side entrance. She had a key. 20 minutes later, Derek's BMW pulled up. He looked around nervously before using the same side entrance. The lights in his third-floor office came on. I took photos with my phone, noting the timestamps. Then I attached the GPS tracker to the underside of Derek's car, in the wheel well where it wouldn't be noticed. The lights in Derek's office went out at 11:15. Kelly left first, looking disheveled. Derek followed 10 minutes later, straightening his tie. I had them. But this was just the beginning. Over the next 6 weeks, I was going to document every meeting, every lie, every betrayal. And then, when the whole family was gathered around Lauren's Thanksgiving table, I was going to serve them a meal they'd never forget. My phone buzzed with another text from Kelly. "Where are you? We need to talk." I typed back, "Working late. Don't wait up." Let her wonder. Let her worry. In 6 weeks, she'd have a lot more to worry about than where I was spending my Saturday night. Over the next 3 weeks, I became a different person. By day, I was still Marty O'Sullivan, construction company owner, bidding on jobs and managing crews. But by night and on weekends, I transformed into something else. A hunter, methodically tracking my prey. Kelly and Derek had fallen into a pattern. Tuesday and Thursday evenings at his office, Saturday afternoons at the Riverside Motel on Route 9, a pay-by-the-hour establishment that catered to people who valued discretion over cleanliness. Sunday mornings at the state park, walking the trails like a normal couple while Lauren thought Derek was playing golf. I documented everything. Photos of them entering and leaving together, GPS data showing their cars at the same locations at the same times. Credit card receipts I found in Derek's trash. He was sloppy about covering his tracks, probably because he'd never had anyone looking before. The hardest part was maintaining the facade at home. Kelly had moved into the guest bedroom, claiming she needed space to think about our situation. She still cooked dinner, still made small talk about our days, still played the role of concerned wife. But I could see the calculation behind her eyes, the way she studied me for signs that I suspected more than I was letting on. "Sean called today," she mentioned casually one evening as we ate her famous lasagna. "He wants to meet for coffee tomorrow." I looked up from my plate, keeping my expression neutral. "Oh? What about?" "He said he wants to discuss the situation." She couldn't quite meet my eyes. "I think he's ready to admit what happened between us." "Interesting." I took another bite of lasagna, chewing slowly. "What exactly do you think he's going to admit to?" Kelly's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "That we slept together. That the baby might be his." "Might be?" "Well, I mean..." She set down her fork and reached across the table to touch my hand. "There's a chance it could be yours too, Marty. We haven't exactly been celibate." The touch of her skin made me want to pull away, but I forced myself to remain still. "When was your last period, Kelly?" "What?" "Your last period. If you're pregnant, and if you know who the father is, then you must know when conception occurred. So when was your last period?" She withdrew her hand and picked up her fork again. "I don't remember exactly. Women don't keep track of these things the way you think we do." "Really?" "Because the Kelly I married used a period tracking app on her phone. Color-coded calendar, predicted ovulation dates, the works. You were obsessive about it when we were trying to get pregnant 5 years ago." The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Finally, Kelly pushed back from the table and stood up. I don't like being interrogated in my own home. Our home. And I'm not interrogating you. I'm asking simple questions that any husband would ask when his wife claims to be pregnant by his brother. She started clearing the dishes with sharp, angry movements. Sean will tell you the truth tomorrow. Then maybe you'll stop treating me like a criminal. I watched her stack plates in the sink, noting the way her hands shook slightly. Kelly, can I ask you something? What? Do you actually think I'm stupid? She turned around, dish towel in her hands, and for a moment I saw genuine confusion in her eyes. What do you mean? I mean, do you think I'm so stupid that I can't see what's really going on here? That I can't put together the pieces of this elaborate story you're spinning? I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. I stood up and walked to the kitchen window, looking out at Mrs. Petty's house. The old woman was at her window, pretending to water plants while obviously watching our kitchen. You're having an affair, Kelly. We both know it. The only question is whether you're going to keep lying about who it's with. I heard the dish towel hit the floor behind me, but I didn't turn around. If you're so sure I'm cheating, Kelly said, her voice tight with anger, then why don't you just file for divorce and be done with it? Because I want the truth. All of it. I want to know how long this has been going on. And I want to know who you're really protecting with this ridiculous story about Sean. I'm not protecting anyone! Now I did turn around. Kelly was standing by the sink, her face flushed, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. Then prove it. Take a paternity test. What? A paternity test. They make prenatal ones now. Simple blood draw, completely safe for the baby. If Sean's really the father, the test will prove it. Kelly's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Surprise, fear, calculation, and finally, defiance. Fine, she said. I'll take your test. And when it proves that Sean is the father, I want an apology. From both of you. Deal. But I want to choose the lab. And I want to be there when the blood is drawn. Fine. And Kelly, when the test comes back showing that Sean isn't the father, I want you to tell me who really is. She didn't answer, just turned back to the sink and began washing dishes with violent efficiency. I went upstairs to my home office and closed the door. Then I called Sean. She took the bait, I told him. She's agreed to the paternity test. Jesus, Marty, she's really going to go through with this charade? Right up until the moment the results come back. Then she'll have to either confess or come up with an even more elaborate lie. What if she runs? I looked out the window at Kelly's Honda in the driveway. The GPS tracker I'd installed was working perfectly, sending location updates to my phone every 15 minutes. She won't run. She's too invested in her life here, her job, her reputation. She thinks she can still control this situation. And Derek? Derek doesn't know I'm onto him yet. He thinks he's safe as long as Kelly keeps pointing fingers at you. This is getting complicated, Marty. Good. Complicated means they'll make mistakes. And when they do, I'll be ready. After I hung up, I opened my laptop and reviewed the evidence I'd been collecting. Photos, GPS logs, credit card receipts, even a recording of Kelly and Derek arguing in the parking lot of the Riverside Motel about being more careful. In 3 more weeks, Lauren would send out the invitations for Thanksgiving dinner. The whole family would gather at her house. Kelly and me, Sean, Lauren and Derek, their teenage daughter Madison, Kelly's parents, Lauren's in-laws. A captive audience for the revelation that would destroy 2 marriages and shatter a family. But first, I had to survive the paternity test without tipping my hand. I had to let Kelly think she still had a chance of making her story stick. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stop following my wife or you'll regret it. Derek. Somehow he'd figured out that I was watching them, I typed back. I don't know what you're talking about. The response came immediately. We need to talk. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., Murphy's Pub. I stared at the message for a long moment. Derek was making his move, trying to get ahead of the situation. But he'd made a crucial mistake. He'd just confirmed that Kelly was his wife in everything but name. I typed back, see you there. Let him come. Let him try to threaten me or buy me off or whatever he thought would work. He was about to learn that some people couldn't be intimidated or bought. Tomorrow night at Murphy's Pub, the real game would begin. Murphy's Pub occupied the basement of a converted Victorian mansion downtown, all dark wood and dim lighting that made everyone look like they were plotting something. Which, in Derek's case, was probably accurate. He was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with a whiskey in front of him and the look of a man who'd been rehearsing a speech. Derek Hanley was 41, tall and lean, with prematurely gray hair that made him look distinguished rather than old. Women found him attractive, juries trusted him, and judges respected him. He was everything I wasn't: polished, educated, connected. He was also screwing my wife. Marty. He stood up as I approached, extending his hand like we were old friends meeting for drinks. Thanks for coming. I ignored the handshake and slid into the booth across from him. Let's skip the pleasantries, Derek. You said we needed to talk, so talk. He sat back down and took a sip of his whiskey, studying me over the rim of the glass. You're upset. I understand that. Kelly told me about the situation. Did she now? And what exactly did she tell you? That you're having problems. That you've been following her, making accusations. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a confidential tone. Marty, I've known you for 8 years. You're a good man, a hard worker. But sometimes when a marriage is in trouble, we look for someone to blame instead of looking at ourselves. I almost laughed. The bastard was actually trying to gaslight me while sitting 3 feet away from me. Is that your professional opinion, counselor? It's my opinion as someone who cares about both of you. Kelly's been coming to Lauren for advice, and Lauren's been talking to me. We're all worried about you. How thoughtful. And I suppose these conversations with Kelly have been purely platonic? Derek's hand tightened on his glass, but his expression didn't change. I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. You and Kelly have been meeting at your office twice a week for the past month. You've been to the Riverside Motel together 4 times. You take walks together at Riverside State Park on Sunday mornings, while Lauren thinks you're playing golf. Now his mask slipped, just for a moment. I saw fear flicker across his features before he regained control. That's ridiculous. I don't know where you're getting this information, but I'm getting it from watching you. I pulled up my phone and scrolled to a photo of Derek and Kelly entering the motel together. Tuesday afternoon, 3:15. You stayed for 2 hours. Derek stared at the photo, his face going pale. Then he looked up at me with something like respect in his eyes. What do you want? The truth. All of it. How long has this been going on? He drained his whiskey and signaled the waitress for another. 6 months. It started at Lauren's birthday party. Kelly had too much wine. We ended up talking on the back porch and things happened. And the baby? Mine. Kelly wanted to tell you the truth, but I convinced her to wait. I thought maybe we could figure out a way to handle this without destroying 2 families. By pinning it on my brother? Derek's second whiskey arrived, and he took a large gulp before answering. That was Kelly's idea. She panicked when she realized she was pregnant. She knew you'd demand a paternity test if she said it was mine, but she thought you might believe it was Sean's. Because Sean's been divorced and lonely, and everyone knows he's had a thing for Kelly since high school. Something like that. I leaned back in the booth, processing this confirmation of what I'd already suspected. So what's your plan now? Run away together? Leave Lauren and start fresh somewhere else? I don't know. Derek's voice was barely above a whisper. I love Lauren. I never meant for this to happen. But Kelly, she's different. She makes me feel alive in a way I haven't felt in years. Spare me the midlife crisis sob story. What I want to know is what you're prepared to do to keep this quiet. Derek's head snapped up. What do you mean? I mean, how much is it worth to you to keep Lauren from finding out? How much to keep your law practice from being destroyed by scandal? How much to keep your daughter from learning that her father is a cheating piece of garbage? You want money. I want justice. But I'm open to negotiation. Derek reached into his jacket and pulled out a checkbook. How much? I watched him uncap his pen and felt a surge of disgust. This was how men like Derek solved problems. They threw money at them. Put the checkbook away, Derek. This isn't about money. Then what? I want you to tell Lauren the truth. Tonight. I want you to confess everything. End your marriage with honesty instead of lies. I can't do that. Then I will. Thanksgiving dinner, in front of everyone. Your choice. Derek's pen clattered to the table. You bastard. That would destroy her. No, Derek. You destroyed her. I'm just delivering the news. He stared at me for a long moment, then laughed bitterly. You know what's funny? Kelly said you were too stupid to figure this out. She said you'd believe whatever story she fed you because you were just a dumb construction worker who was lucky to have her. The words hit me like a physical blow, but I kept my expression neutral. Did she now? She said you were boring, predictable, that you had no imagination, no passion, that being married to you was like being married to a piece of furniture. Each word was carefully chosen, designed to hurt. But Derek had made a mistake. He'd revealed just how little respect either of them had for me, and that made what I was about to do so much easier. Well, I said, standing up and dropping a 20 on the table, I guess she's about to find out just how imaginative I can be. I left Derek sitting there with his whiskey and his fear, and walked out into the crisp November air. 3 weeks until Thanksgiving. 3 weeks to put the finishing touches on my plan. Kelly was asleep when I got home, or pretending to be. I went to my office and called Sean. How did it go? He asked. Derek confessed everything. 6 months. Started at Lauren's birthday party. Baby's his. Jesus, what did you tell him? That he has until Thanksgiving to tell Lauren himself, or I'll do it for him. Think he will? No, he's too much of a coward. He'll probably try to convince Kelly to run away with him, or maybe he'll try to have me killed. That's not funny, Marty. I'm not joking. Derek's got too much to lose. Men like him don't go down without a fight. Maybe you should back off. Take what you know to a divorce lawyer and be done with it. No, I want them exposed. I want everyone to know what they did. Even if it destroys Lauren too? I thought about Lauren, Kelly's younger sister. She was a good person, a devoted mother, a faithful wife who didn't deserve what was coming. But she deserved the truth more than she deserved the lie she was living. Lauren's strong. She'll survive this and be better off without him. And Kelly? Kelly made her choice. Now she gets to live with the consequences. After I hung up, I sat in my office for a long time, staring out at the dark street. In 3 weeks, I was going to detonate a bomb that would destroy multiple lives. Kelly and Derek deserved it, but there would be collateral damage. Lauren, Madison, Kelly's parents, even Sean would be affected. But some things were worth the cost. Truth was one of them. My phone buzzed with a text from Kelly. Can't sleep. Want to talk? I typed back, tomorrow, after the paternity test. The test that would prove Sean wasn't the father. The test that would force Kelly to either confess or dig herself deeper into a hole she couldn't climb out of. Either way, the countdown to Thanksgiving had begun. The paternity test results arrived on a Tuesday, delivered by certified mail to my office. I didn't open the envelope immediately. Instead, I sat at my desk, holding the key to Kelly's destruction, and thought about the moment that had brought us here. Sean wasn't the father. I knew that before I opened the envelope. The test would show what I already knew, that Kelly had been lying from the beginning, that she'd tried to destroy my relationship with my brother to cover up her own betrayal. I called Sean first. The results are in. And? Haven't opened them yet. Want to be there when I do? On my way. 20 minutes later, Sean sat across from my desk as I slid open the envelope. The lab report was clinical, precise, devastating. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. Well, Sean said, that's definitive. I made copies of the report and sealed the original back in its envelope. Time for phase 2, which is confronting Kelly with the truth. Tonight. But Kelly wasn't home when I arrived. Her car was gone, and a note on the kitchen counter said she was having dinner with Lauren. I called her cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. At 9 o'clock, she still wasn't home. At 10, I started to worry. At 11, I used the GPS tracker to locate her car. She was at Derek's house. I drove through the upscale neighborhood where Derek and Lauren lived, past houses with perfect lawns and 3-car garages, until I found Kelly's Honda parked 2 blocks away from Derek's address. Smart. She didn't want the neighbors to see it in his driveway. Lauren's Mercedes wasn't there either. According to her Facebook page, she was at a PTA meeting that should have ended an hour ago. I parked across the street and waited. At 11:47 p.m., the front door opened, and Kelly emerged. looking around nervously before hurrying to her car. She drove straight home, where I was waiting in the kitchen, with the paternity test results spread across the table. "We need to talk," I said when she walked in. Kelly stopped in the doorway, taking in the scene. Her face went through several expressions before settling on defiance. "I can explain." "I'm sure you can, but first, let's discuss these test results." She approached the table slowly, like someone walking toward a trap. When she saw the lab report, her shoulders sagged. "Sean isn't the father," I said unnecessarily. "Probability of paternity, 0%, which means either this baby was conceived through immaculate conception, or you've been lying to me about who you've been sleeping with." Kelly sank into a chair across from me. For a moment, I thought she might confess everything. Instead, she tried one more lie. "Maybe the test is wrong. Maybe they mixed up the samples." "Kelly," my voice was gentle, almost pitying, "I know about Derek." The color drained from her face. "What?" "I know about the affair. I have photos, GPS records, credit card receipts. I know about the Riverside Motel, and the Sunday morning walks, and the late-night meetings at his office." I leaned forward. "I even know it started at Lauren's birthday party 6 months ago." Kelly stared at me in horror. "How long have you known?" "Since the day you claimed to be pregnant with Sean's baby. It took me about 5 minutes to figure out you were lying, and another week to figure out who you were really protecting. Then why didn't you say anything?" "Because I wanted to see how far you'd go, how many lies you'd tell, how many people you'd hurt to cover up your betrayal." I gestured at the paternity test results. "Apparently the answer is, as far as necessary." Kelly buried her face in her hands. "What do you want, Marty?" "I want you to pack your things and get out of my house. Tonight." "Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not my problem anymore. Call Derek. I'm sure he'll find room for you." She looked up at me with tears streaming down her face. "What about Lauren? What about Madison? You can't destroy their family because you're angry at me." "I'm not destroying their family, Kelly. You and Derek already did that. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth." "Please, Marty." "I'll do anything. I'll end it with Derek. I'll go to counseling. It's too late for that. You made your choice when you decided to blame Sean for your pregnancy. You made your choice when you looked me in the eye and lied, over and over again." Kelly's tears turned to anger. "You self-righteous bastard. You think you're so perfect? You think you're such a prize?" I was suffocating in this marriage, living with a man who has no dreams, no ambition, no passion for anything except building other people's houses. And yet you stayed. For 12 years, you stayed and let me pay for your lifestyle while you looked for something better. I deserve better than this. She gestured around the kitchen. I deserve more than a blue-collar husband and a suburban house and the same boring routine year after year. You're right. You do deserve better. You deserve exactly what you're about to get. Nothing. I stood up and walked to the door. I want you gone by morning. Take whatever you can carry and leave your keys on the counter. Marty, wait! But I was already walking upstairs to the bedroom we'd shared for 12 years. I locked the door behind me and listened to Kelly crying in the kitchen below. By morning, she was gone. Thanksgiving was 8 days away. Lauren's invitation arrived by text on Wednesday. Annual O'Sullivan-Hanley Thanksgiving Feast, Thursday, 3 p.m. Bring your appetites and your gratitude. XOXO. I responded, wouldn't miss it for the world. Sean called that evening. Kelly's been trying to reach me all day. She wants to meet. Let her, but record the conversation. Already planned on it. What do you think she wants? Probably to convince you to back up her story one more time. She's desperate. And Derek? Haven't heard from him. But he'll be at Thanksgiving dinner, playing the perfect husband right up until the moment I destroy his life. You sure about this, Marty? Once you do this, there's no taking it back. I thought about Kelly's words the night before, about how I was boring and unimaginative, how she deserved better than the life I'd given her. I'm sure. Thanksgiving morning dawned gray and cold, with the promise of snow in the air. I dressed carefully. Dark slacks, white shirt, the blue tie Kelly had bought me for our anniversary 2 years ago. If I was going to destroy 2 families, I was going to look respectable doing it. I stopped at Kinko's and made copies of everything. The paternity test, the photos, the GPS records, the hotel receipts. I put one set in a manila envelope and left the rest in my truck. Lauren and Derek's house was already crowded when I arrived. Kelly's parents, Bob and Susan, were in the living room with Derek's mother. Madison was in the kitchen, helping Lauren with the turkey. Sean was on the back porch, smoking a cigarette and looking nervous. And there was Kelly, sitting at the breakfast bar with a glass of sparkling cider, playing the part of the glowing, expectant mother. "Marty!" Lauren rushed over to hug me, her face flushed from cooking. "I'm so glad you could make it." Kelly said you two have been working through some things. We have indeed. I looked over Lauren's shoulder at Kelly, who was watching me with undisguised fear. In fact, we've reached some very important conclusions. Derek appeared from the living room, drink in hand, playing the role of gracious host. "Marty, good to see you. Can I get you something to drink?" "Just water, thanks. I want to keep a clear head for what's coming." Something in my tone made Derek pause. Our eyes met across the kitchen, and I saw him recognize the look on my face. This was the look of a man who'd run out of patience. "Actually," I said, raising my voice to address the room, "before we eat, I have something I'd like to share with everyone, a kind of Thanksgiving announcement." The conversations around the kitchen died away. Kelly's face had gone white. "Marty," she said quietly, "maybe we should—" "No, Kelly. I think everyone should hear this." I pulled the manila envelope from my jacket and set it on the kitchen island. 3 weeks ago, my wife told me she was pregnant, with my brother's baby. Gasps around the room. Sean stepped in from the porch right on cue. "Of course, I knew that was impossible," I continued, "because Sean had a vasectomy 5 years ago." "Isn't that right, Sean?" "That's right," Sean said loudly. "Completely sterile. Have been for years." Kelly's mother stood up from the breakfast bar. "I don't understand." "Kelly, what is he talking about?" "So, naturally," I continued, "I was curious about who the real father might be. Imagine my surprise when I discovered it was someone much closer to home." I opened the envelope and pulled out the first photograph. Kelly and Derek entering the Riverside Motel together. Derek Hanley, Lauren's husband, Kelly's brother-in-law, the father of her unborn child. The photograph passed from hand to hand around the room. Lauren stared at it in shock, then looked at her husband. "Derek? What is this?" Derek's face had gone gray. "Lauren, I can explain." "Can you?" I pulled out more photos, more evidence. "Can you explain the hotel receipts? The GPS records showing your car and Kelly's at the same locations, dozens of times over the past 6 months? Can you explain this recording of you two planning how to frame my brother?" I pressed play on my phone. Derek's voice filled the kitchen. "We have to be more careful. If Marty finds out, he'll destroy both of us." And Kelly's response? "He won't find out. He's too stupid to put it together." The silence that followed was deafening. Then Lauren stepped forward and slapped Derek across the face so hard the sound echoed off the kitchen walls. "You bastard," she whispered. "You lying, cheating bastard." Kelly tried to run for the door, but Sean blocked her path. "Going somewhere, sis?" "This is insane," Derek said, his hand pressed to his reddened cheek. "You can't believe—" "I can believe the evidence," Lauren said. She turned to me with tears in her eyes. "How long have you known?" 3 weeks. "I wanted to tell you sooner, but I needed proof." "Get out." Lauren's voice was deadly quiet. "Both of you. Get out of my house." "Lauren, please," Kelly started. "Get out!" The kitchen erupted in chaos. Kelly's parents demanding explanations, Derek's mother crying, Madison running upstairs in tears, Sean and I standing back, watching the family we'd all been part of tear itself apart. Kelly and Derek left together, Derek's BMW fishtailing on the icy driveway as they fled the scene of their destruction. Lauren collapsed into a chair at the kitchen table, surrounded by the ruins of Thanksgiving dinner and her marriage. "I'm sorry," I told her. "I'm sorry you had to find out this way." "No," she said, wiping her eyes. "I'm glad you told me. I deserve to know the truth." I looked around the kitchen at the faces of people I'd known for years, people who were now looking at me with a mixture of respect and fear. I'd kept my promise. I'd gotten my revenge. Kelly and Derek were exposed, their reputations destroyed, their futures uncertain. So why didn't I feel better? "Well," Sean said, breaking the silence, "this is definitely going to be a Thanksgiving to remember. And despite everything, despite the pain and the betrayal and the destruction, I found myself laughing, because he was right. This was a Thanksgiving none of us would ever forget. The end. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city are you watching? 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 Which city are you watching?